IPMNation.com.
Thank you all for joining us here on IPM Nation. We're getting ready tonight for the big launch. Thank you so much. We're trying so hard to get everything just right. I think we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. So thank you so very much for sticking with us while we're doing all this. We're going to get ready to head over to Facebook and launch it live over there. Thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it. And, here we go.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist. A philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
All right. Well, I guess I learned you can't do that. Welcome, and thank you for stopping by. The number one rated show on IPMNation.com, episode 260 of The Gong, heard round the world. You're in to All Natural Being, broadcast as it happens here on IPMNation.com. And for Facebook on Fly on the Wall video, live from the Outpost Studios here in rainy Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast on iTunes and iHeartRadio. Greetings wherever you are here in the Garden of the Mortals. Top of the day, the truest parts of your mind. Salute, because life, it's your labyrinth. You're shot at running the table. And that's why we're here. Always putting your heart's highest priority top of the list. That's it. Placing your primal scream front and center in your life. That's what we do. Reinstalling, I guess you could say, and reinstating the true wisdom of your inner whisper. Because it's time to reboot your robust. It's time to find your ferocious, to out-brutal the brutal in the cut and shuffle that fate deals you on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold once and for all. But before we hit episode 260 today, hello to my friends here in the United States and Canada, Mexico, the UK, my good friends in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Sweden, Israel, South Africa, and Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands. To those joining us from all over the globe, it truly is great to have you with us. And I'm fired up today to be driving your bandwagon, to be your biggest fan, to be avidly you. It's time to mortal up. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And what I will tell you, it's been a heck of a run the last couple of weeks here, really, in the studio. As you know, we've tried to get everything ramped up so that we could take callers, we could have all these other things going on, and it just it's. Let me put it this way: it probably hasn't cooperated the way that I thought it would. And by that I mean, I thought I would learn, as I said to one of the guys, I never realized that the audio production was going to be this hard. So let me apologize to all the people that do audio production, because I'm like, okay, well, let's just set these meters. Let's just set this board. Let's just do all these other things. And then we'll go ahead and say, okay, great. Now we're set and we're ready for the show. We'll just pay attention to the cameras. We'll do whatever it is that we want to do. But then I realized, and it wasn't until one of them said something to me, they said, well, that's why they have full-time sound people to do this. That's why they have full-time people that it's, oh, quiet down. Mortal up. Thank you. Janai, let me say, because now I wish I could take a picture. I will do that. I'll take a picture and show you what's going on. But when we get back to it, where I said to folks, well, I'd like to be able to turn on the cameras and go. And then they go, well, that's why you have full-time audio, full-time sound people to be able to do this. And I'm thinking, okay, great, but who watches the board? Well, I guess I'm going to. Who's going to do all these things? I guess I'm going to. And as you saw in the open, you can't hit one of those buttons midway through. Can't adjust the volume there. No, you don't want that to happen. So I'm learning as we go. So thank you so very much. It was a bit like, I think we tried 260 the other night, but we couldn't get Facebook to work, and then we couldn't get the audio call-ins to work. So I think this is the revamped episode 260. Like 260 and 3/4, I guess. But thank you for sticking with me as we get ready to ramp up here. The evening version of All Natural Being, we'll do a half hour this evening, probably a half hour tomorrow evening, and then starting back next Monday, we'll be here at least the full hour. All kinds of stuff to tell you about. David, I wanted to tell you, Brother Bowman, yes, I've learned what faded meant. So thank you very much for that. Well, hello, Janice. Hello, Henry. Nice to see you. Janile, thank you so very much. Lisa, nice to see you as well. Rita, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Dana, thank you very much. Larry Fleming, hey, bud. How are you, Chief? Nice to see you, sir. Oliver, nice to see you as well. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. And as I said, oops, I hope. You got to watch, Lisa. If you give oops to me, I think it's me that's actually doing something wrong. So thank you so very much for joining us. And so this whole process of getting into the studio and wanting to get to the point, before I do that, let me just thank, because I spent so much time on the audio here, getting everything dialed in. I guess we didn't realize. Hello to Lee. Nice to see you, brother. I guess we didn't realize that I wasn't paying a lot of attention to updating the video cards. So we've only got one camera. My close-up camera isn't working for this evening. You froze up for a second. Oh, sorry about that, brother. Well, I hope everything's going okay now. I'm hoping. So I wanted to thank Dana Lee, and I'll show this when I get a chance. I got this for my birthday. Thank you so very much. The little pyramid helps. And I think Dana Lee's going to be calling in here before too long. She can explain it to us. But thank you very much, my friend, for sending that to me for my birthday. I appreciate it. And Henry is going to call in as well here before too long. So we'll get a chance to. And Gabriel is here also. Gabriel, thank you so very much. And I say hello right back at you. Thank you for the birthday gift, and thank you for joining us here on All Natural Being. So you may know that we did, the 250 some odd episodes we were doing in the mornings for All Natural Being. And then thanks to Matt over at IPMNation.com and everything else that was going on, we ended up being picked up by iHeartRadio. So the bigwigs are all like, oh, well, did you ever think that you may want to go ahead and do evenings? So we're like, great, let's do evenings. But then I'm talking to my good friend David Ray Bowman, who's a professional at this, right? He knows what he's doing. And he'd go, oh, what do you think about the fade? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I had no clue, right? I talked to one of these audio guys last week from Sweetwater, and I've got to thank the good folks at Sweetwater for being just fantastic and teaching me all this, in addition to David Ray Bowman and the like. But I said to him, hey, how'd you spend the weekend? And he goes, well, I was busy putting the bass traps. In my basement. And I thought, honest to goodness, I thought he had a rodent problem. I had no clue what bass traps were. And he had to teach me gain and all these other things. So I'd get texts from time to time from David, and he'd be like, oh, what about this? What about that? So I literally had to buy a book, Soundboard for Dummies. I literally had to buy a book, Audio Production for Idiots, right? Just so I could learn how to do some of these very things that I had hoped we'd be able to do. And again, my apologies to people that do soundboards and the rest of that, because I had no clue what a challenge it is. I had no clue. Jenny, nice to see you. Thank you so very much for watching, as I was just thanking and telling everyone to thank you and Matt for everything that you've done. And we'll have Henry here in a little bit. He now has IPM Nation 4. We'll have him talk about that when he joins this evening. And I was just going through all the different things I had to learn, because way back when I thought, there are no dumb questions. We'll start that way. We all start that way and learn. Well, David, thank you very much, because I think David had to explain gain to me not all that long ago. So thank you, brother, very much. But the days of me thinking, I'll just focus on content and I'll turn on this button and this switch and that switch. There's more levers. Wait till people start calling in. There's more going on here than you could possibly believe. So thank you all so very much for sticking with me as I figure out even the most basics. And here's one of the things that you may not know. We try to do the radio show on IPMNation.com/A&B now, right? But we also wanted to continue to do things here on Facebook Live. So the trick was to make sure that audio goes both ways. And believe it or not, they've just now come out with the technology that allows you to attach two computers and have that audio go all these different ways. And then when I thought, great, I'll have people call in. I want to hear what everyone has to think. I want to hear, right, your 2 minutes for your 2 cents, all those other things. And I go, great, we'll just take calls. Well, I'm not smart enough to know that when you say, great, we're just going to take calls. Well, there's a whole technology that goes into that. There's a whole thing of boxes and buttons and all these other things that allow you to say, yeah, well, here's how you have to do. Well, let's try this one. Let's see this. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who is this?
This is Dana. Who is this?
Dana, my friend, how are you? Thank you so very much. I'm holding it up. Again, I paid no attention to all the video capture cars trying to get the audio right, so I can't show them up close what this is, but it was very sweet of you. Thank you for thinking of me on my birthday. Please tell Gabriel that I said thank you as well, and give me an idea. What does this do? Because I take it in. I know you said it has something to do with EMF. EMF?
Right.
If I have it right? So I put it right near my bed at night in case there's any... with me, especially with everything I'm going through, recovering from the brain tumor, I need to block all the EMF I can. So what is this? I love the color as well.
I figured blue was your favorite color because that's what you wear, the color a lot when you do the live shows. So sometimes they're attached, it's holistic. It's a healing circle, and it creates like healing effects.
Okay.
And balancing and electromagnetic energies in our environment through Wi-Fi, cell phones, smart meters, other wireless technology. And it basically kind of neutralizes the electronic frequency pollution, and it helps with fatigue and irritability or lack of concentration.
Well, I can tell you this, after 3 weeks to try to get the audio, there's no irritability in my life. There's tons of irritability.
I've missed you for a week because usually in the morning, you're what I get ready to and drive Gabriel to school with.
Thank you, my friend, so very much. We're trying this evening thing, and since you were so nice to call in, so nice to send me, I have my own little pyramid. And just before I get onto this, I should take this to my bedroom, right? I should put this like where the Wi-Fi signal is in my room each evening. Don't you think that would be the good place for it? Because I like it right here in the iris.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it would even be good to get more than one. I have one on each floor, and basically it's supposed to like just ground the energies. Okay. I just had a cable guy come to my house to fix my Wi-Fi, and he showed me on the meter the pollution from all the other frequencies of 5G and 4G from my neighbors. So, I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry, and if anything can help that's holistic, then I'm down to try it.
Well, thank you, and I can't thank you enough for thinking of me. And when I got it, and I was like, because I totally spaced that you had sent me a message going, hey, look at something. And let me say hello real quick to Kelly. Kelly, good evening. Sue, my good friend Sue, good evening. Jenny, yes, my crystal ball is right over in front here, and I'd reach over to grab it, but you and I know you know me. I'll end up knocking it off onto the table and I'll roll onto the floor. But it's exactly like that. Let me say good evening to Jenny, and again to Kelly, and to Sue, and to Henry, and to David, and to Janice and Janile. Thank you so very much for joining me here this evening. Oliver, as always, thank you so very much. And then, so this whole concept of the pyramid, this whole concept of being able to block some of the EMF, is that, like, have you studied that? Is that something that you know quite a bit about? Or were you just thinking, yeah, Brian needs to block his brain all he can? Or is this something that you've studied for a while?
I have been reading a lot about it and watching a lot of YouTube videos and just understanding what your situation was and how the possibilities of the pollution from the EMF can hurt.
Sure.
So I was considering making them myself.
Oh, great.
But I'm not there yet. It's like organic. You need organic, and then inorganic. There's some like copper. It's like the Tesla theory. When you do it counterclockwise, it emits like the positive and negative eons.
Oh, cool.
So I'm thinking of getting more involved in it and trying to help other people also with that.
Well, thank you, my friend, very much. So, if would I be like one of the first that you've, at least in terms of reaching out and trying to expose them to technology, or do I get to put my name close to the top of the list at least?
Absolutely. You are the first, Brian Brawdy.
Well, thank you, my friend, so very much. Now, I know before I let you go, you're going to come and I'm going to get a chance to bump into you in person here before too long. Aren't you coming to my neck of the woods here in a couple weeks or thereabouts?
Yep, the ending of June, the beginning of July. And Gabriel would like to say hello if it's okay.
Oh, that would be great. I would love to say hello to Gabriel.
Okay. Say hi. I'm Mr. Brawdy.
Hi, Gabriel. How are you, bro?
Hi, Mr. Brian Brawdy.
You're welcome to call me
I
Brian.
watch your shows every day.
Well, thank you, my friend, very much.
When I can.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Gabriel. I think you have a really cool first name, just so you know. Okay. Take care, my friend. Thank you. Let me say hello quickly to Rodney and to Sean. Thank you so very much for watching. Dana, I can't thank you enough. Please give Gabriel a hug for us. And we will see you. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you before too long. And thank you again for the birthday present. It was really great. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Love and light.
All right, my friend. You too as well. Thanks so much. Bye now. All right, so again, joining us for All Natural Being this evening, that was Dana. Thank you very much. John, good evening to you as well. Thank you for joining us here on All Natural Being. So here's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Oh, hold on, we got another call coming in. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who's this?
Hey, big man.
Hey, Henry. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Did you get a chance? Gabriel got on a little bit ago when Dana called in. Gabriel got on to say hello. It was nice to hear his voice. And she sent me something really cool for my birthday, this little pyramid that blocks EMF. So I was fired up to get back after the weekend and have that in the mail. So you just missed Gabriel. But what are you up to? How goes the day?
Just trying to stay out of trouble. That's a full-time job for me.
For you, I believe it is. Well, I wanted you to comment on this because I was just getting ready to show everyone. And again, Henry's been working with me to try to help me understand this board, understand all these other things. And right, so it won't surprise him at all that none of the video cards have been updated. Right, Henry? So I work all this time to make sure that we've got the audio just right. And then I go to fire up the cameras this evening. Hold on, just so you know. The troll camera works just fine. Troll alert. But the other two cutaway cameras are gone, so I will spend tomorrow Oregon. Thank you, Dana, very much again. Oregon, I can't wait to see you. Thanks so much. So I don't have my cutaway cameras, but I was going to show you this. It's a lotion, and it says, Henry, penetrates 10 layers deep. And the moment I saw that, I thought, well, that's interesting. At least human skin has a thickness of 10 layers. How cool would it be if we all had insults and made them travel 10 layers before we became outraged, before we became insulted, before we felt like we were offended in some way? 10 layers deep. There's a lot of hot heads wrapped in thin skin that don't even seem to operate with one layer of skin.
That would be fabulous.
Wouldn't it be if they operated with more than just one layer?
Oh, man. Yeah, it wouldn't be like walking on thin ice most of the time.
Well, you see it anymore, and it's so troubling to see how easily offended people are, right? To see how easily upset people are, to see how people have left the ego, just let that run amok in their lives. And as far as the shelf life, as far as having a situation where, there's a born-on date, and after a certain time, you achieve maturity. After a certain time, meditation is just ultimately remembering who you truly are.
Exactly. It's very interesting. I love the thought. That's really cool.
And I wanted to share this with you. I got this from Jeremy this morning, and I thought this was pretty cool, especially in terms of the shelf life of the ego. And he said, it's a little story that he says, a man saw a snake being burned to death and decided to take it out of the fire. When he did, the snake bit him. The bite caused excruciating pain. The man dropped the snake, and the reptile fell right back into the fire. The man tried to pull it out again, And again, he's a snake. It bit him, right? Just horrible pain. So someone who's watching this approached the man and said, "Excuse me, but you'd understand that every time you try to get the snake out of the fire, it's going to bite you. Why are you being so stubborn?" And the man replied, "The nature of the snake is to bite, but that's not going to change my nature, which is to help." So with the help of a metal pole, the man took the snake out of the fire and saved its life. And Jeremy Brawdy goes on to say in this, "Do not change your nature simply because someone harms you. Do not lose your essence. Only take precautions. Worry about your conscience, then your reputation. Your conscience is what you are, and your reputation is simply what others think of you. And what other people think of you is not your problem. It's theirs." So I thought that was a really cool little story about is full of vitriol, is full of poison, as some of the slings and arrows can be. Ultimately, let them be the snake. It's not going to change the way we are. How is that applicable to not letting the ego, Henry, run our show and our lives?
That's exactly what it's all about. We don't realize just how much we allow external things to affect us, and we stay so, so limited in our ability to really just sense and take logical direction.
Okay.
We're too busy defending ourselves and protecting our skins, our thin skins, and not chiseling enough in our thick heads to try to make sense of the things. So, yeah, I think that is a fabulous story. It is.
And you would think about it. I saw this thing the other day where Robert De Niro gets all worked up at the Tonys, and he's all mad at the president, and this one's mad at this one, and this one's mad at that one. And I'm thinking, well, if you really believe that those other that people are snakes, if you really believe they have that sense of venom, if you really believe, right, they're like a package delivery person. You come up to the door, and they want you to sign for the package. If you don't sign for the package, it's not yours. They have to put it back in their truck and take it away. So it's the same way with insult. It's the same way with, as we talk about the cut and shuffle of fate, it's the same way. If you're not willing to accept it, what's the old thing? It takes two to tango. If you're not willing to accept it, then you're left with the person spitting the venom in the first place. Is that just a lesson of maturity? Is that like the natural byproduct of no longer letting the ego run the show in your life? Or is it a lesson, progressive adaptation? Is it a lesson you have to teach yourself?
It's a lesson I believe we've forgotten. We have been so bent and working so much with ego and letting ego run the show. We have forgotten that we actually do have an existence without ego, and just allowing the ego to get in our way and mandate and dictate who we are. And that is really the biggest part of the problem we have. We don't listen to our hearts, and that's the focus we really need to be in.
And that's when we talk about, good evening to Michael. I want to say hello to Michael real quickly as well. That's when we talk about your all-natural being, channeling that inner whisper, the wit and wisdom of your inner whisper. The ego is going to do everything that it can to block that because it likes being the one controlling you like a puppet. It likes being the worker of the strings, the marionette. It likes being the shadow government that runs control in everything in your life. But ultimately, there's a power even greater than that. I call it your all-natural being, and that you get to a point where you go, I'm not going to let the ego run the show, and I'm most certainly not going to let outside opinion and conjecture, I'm not going to let their drool derail my day.
Exactly. We have become so thin-skinned that everything bothers us. Look at the division that we are in at this point. Not only division just by sexes, but we're divided by everything you can possibly think of, by color, by religion, by philosophy. We are so divided. And it seems like we're looking for more ways to divide ourselves. This is not enough. Pretty soon, my right eye will not accept my left eye.
Right.
And I think it's getting to be a point that it's kind of going crazy. We just need to stop. We just simply have to stop and relook at ourselves and realize there's one race in this whole world, and that's the human race. And after that, everything else is made up.
It has to be. And the ego has to be involved in making that up, Henry, because it's the only way it controls us. I want to say, again, hi to Jenny as well. She says, value yourself more than others' opinions. Absolutely true. I also want to say hello to Lee. Nice to see you, Lee. I can't wait to Lee Rowley. Can't wait to catch up again for lunch whenever you get a chance. When I can put my emotions in check, Dana says, when I can put my emotions in check and consciously choose not to allow things or people to interfere with my choice to be healthy, happy, and at peace. Dana, I think you're absolutely correct. So, Henry, I know that you have to get ready to go here pretty soon, but tell us all about, I got sidetracked on, the ego and Jeremy's story about the snake and the pit and the guy that goes, well, I'm not going to change my nature just because the snake's pissed off, right? I'm not going to change my nature just because, right, someone else is going to suffer to send me all those slings and arrows. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. Tell us a little bit about IPM Nation 4. Tell us what's going on and what you're going to be doing.
Well, we are going to put together a program covering, I guess, a lot of the issues that we are all dealing with. I'm just tired of seeing the human race separate as much as it is and finding every possible reason to divide itself. We are what lives on this planet, too, and we share the responsibility for it. And to be fighting amongst ourselves because of our color or because of sex or because of the kind of cheese we eat, for God's sake, we're really just getting down to just insanity at this point. And I won't even mention, politics.
Sure.
But it's just getting to be crazy. And so I'm trying to put together a program that really addresses these things and really is focused on putting us back together. Bringing us together as one. We are the human race. We're not based on color, religion. We're not based on anything except the human race. And I'd like to see us get back to that and focus on the things that we do best. We are creative, and we are spiritual, and we are insane at times. And it's time to just set aside what we perceive as differences and start working together. It'll make this place a whole different ballgame.
And Henry, you said when it comes in terms of color, and Sue, she says, this is Sue, by the way. She's just the greatest. She says, Henry, do you think, though, that when it comes to color, people are just being more vocal about their discontent? I mean, what's happened? When we talk, again, earlier, I talked about 10 layers deep. I'd be curious, just how deep in terms of the layers of the skin do our color differences go? And then ultimately, we all, when you get beneath that skin, we're all the same color. We're all the same makeup. We all have, we all bleed the same within, the different strands of blood. We all bleed the same type of blood. What's happened? Is it true, as Sue says? Why are people so vocal about their discontent?
People are I think they're fed up. I mean, try to sit on the subway or sit on a bus and try to talk to the person next to you.
Sure.
All we do is see the differences in ourselves. We don't see the similarities, and I think that may have been God's attempt at trying to get us to wake up, that we are not different. We are the same. We just seem to have a different exterior, and everything that is inside of us shouldn't be affected by the exterior. It has been such a fight for humanity, and throughout history, being a history buff, and seeing the divides, and finding every possible reason to divide us, and it all falls back to the one thing that I have always believed in: you can have a million reasons to divide. I have one reason to not divide, and that's because we are part of the same race, and we're supposed to love each other. And that's what I fall back on every time.
And then, Henry, would you mind sharing with everyone where you're calling from, where you live? I mean, because I don't want people to think, oh, that's a really nice message. If you're here in the States, politics have us all divided. Democrats don't like Republicans. Republicans don't like Democrats. Nobody likes us libertarians. Would you mind sharing with everyone where you're calling from?
I live in Cuenca, Ecuador.
In Ecuador, okay.
In Ecuador. We lived here. We moved here almost 6 years ago, and absolutely love it. We lived in the States. We actually moved here from New Mexico, and and it's been fabulous to come to a place that is remarkably different from any other place I've been in the world. And we've done some pretty good traveling. And I find it very, very interesting. And to be outside now the U.S., to be watching it deteriorate as quickly as it is, with people just at each other's throat, and for no other reason than political incorrectness or we talk about thin-skinned. I tell you.
Absolutely. And you think of that thin skin, but ultimately that's what we're passing on the other people. As Dana says, all color of the skin is based on melanin due to the location of our kin. It's ridiculous to hate someone solely on the color of their skin. Dana, not only do I agree with you, it's based on a situation that you and I weren't even involved in. And I love this. People say, well, my heritage. Well, your parents decided, and they didn't even decide. Their parents, they didn't even decide. And their parents before them. No, your great-great-great-great-grandparents didn't even decide what continent they were going to be born on. And all of a sudden, we want to draw our lines in the sand and say, oh, look at all of our differences, when ultimately, she's absolutely right. It's the location of our kin, and none of us, in terms of the human family tree, had any say as to where it was we were going to be born. Right? None of us had any say in it. So we're going to continue based on being separated by a few gallons of salt water. We're going to believe that our particular piece of the mantle or the crust is going to give us the right to hate other people just because of their location. Just doesn't make any sense to me. As Dana says, hate is taught. And hopefully, if that's the case, like Yoda in Star Wars when he says to Luke, you must unlearn that which you have learned. Then, Henry, as we learn to outgrow the ego, as we learn to jettison the ego, then hopefully, is it your position that hate will go along with it?
I am certainly hoping so. I'm trying to keep a real positive attitude about that. Everything that you said is absolutely true. We are the human race. There's nothing in there about color, nothing about religion. Nothing about what the location is that you live. None of that matters. We are the human race, and if we don't work together and just set aside what I guess learned or taught differences are,
sure.
The color of our skin or the accent that we speak with, or how much hair we have on our head. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't mean to say that.
No, that's okay. Because I'm going to be I'm going to represent all the people that are bald with hair lips, and I'm going to take personal offense to you trying to culturally appropriate bald, hair-lipped people. Right? I mean, where do you draw the line? Right? Oh, no, I know where I'll draw the line. I'm going to be offended because you're culturally appropriating people with brain tumors that are bald with hair lips. I mean, when does the insanity stop, right? When is the Meshuggah get to be too much?
It stops right here.
It stops right here, exactly. So, Henry, real quickly before you go, what time are you working on a time slot? How can people get? I think I was talking to Matt yesterday, and Jenny, if you know for sure, in case Henry doesn't, it's ipmnation.com/ is it live 4 or is it transitions? How is it that people can get to your station?
Well, that's a real good question, and I just kind of went brain dead. I gotta.
We'll ask Jenny. I know Jenny's still here. Jenny, could you give us? I think it's ipmnation.com/live 4. I believe.
I believe that's it. Yes, I believe that's it. And right now, I've just got stuff playing. Some of the stuff that I'm trying to cover.
Great. And then pretty soon we're going to start a podcast. Henry and I will be working on our own podcast, which will be on his SoundCloud page. But we're also hoping to have a weekly segment. Okay, I just got this text from Jenny. Thank you, Jenny, very much. ipmnation.com/live4. live, and the number 4, and you'll be able to hear some of Henry's riffs. You'll be able to hear some really cool music. And I want to send out, through telling everyone what you're doing, if it's cool with you, Henry, I'd like to use it as an invitation. Dana, most certainly, if there's other people. Crystal, good evening. Thank you for joining us at All Natural Being. If there's a segment you'd want to incorporate, if you'd like to call in, if there's something that you want to share, with our gang here at All Natural Being, please just instant message me or Facebook message me, however it goes. Let me know about your 2 minutes for your 2 cents. And then if it's a pre-produced segment like Henry's going to have, where we have a certain portion of the show that's dedicated just to this concept of not eliminating the ego, but illuminating the ego. Because it's our position that when you understand what the ego's doing, you go, I'm not going to fall for that, right? So we're not talking about eliminating the ego, no more so than we'd be saying, oh, well, you should saw off an arm or a leg. We're talking about illuminating some of its tricks. Would you say that's a fair representation, Henry?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, the egos, we need the ego. It really is a functional part of us, and it just needs to take a back seat when it's starting to overstep its bounds. And that would eliminate a much of the issues that we face right now.
And then ultimately enlightenment. Everyone's busy. Oh, I got to learn this back-breaking yoga. I got to learn this meditation form, that meditation form. I got to get a guru to give me a mantra. I got to do all these other things. But ultimately, when people say, oh, what's it take to be enlightened? Their underlying operating system, minus the mashugana of the ego, isn't their underlying operating system already enlightenment? So clearly all you have to do is really just get out of your own way. There's nothing to get except out of your own way. Would you say?
Absolutely. That we are our biggest stumbling block, and we find pretty much any excuse we can to place a stumbling block in front of us. And I have yet to figure that out. I really don't understand it. But we do a very good job of it, and seems to be that separation is what we look to do, and yet we really shouldn't be. We should be pulling everybody together. It's the only way we function.
And then I suspect then, Henry, maybe what we'll find out one day is that it's the aftermath of an ego that's overstayed its welcome, right? That function of controlling. Let me say good evening to Kelly. Good evening. Hello, EO, or hello, either one. Thank you very much for joining us, Kelly. Hope all's well. Right? So couldn't it very well, Henry, just be that your ego has just like mold on bread, right? That if it sticks around too long, you got mold growing on it. Well, maybe that's the way the ego turns out to be when it comes in relationship to your enlightenment. It sticks around too long, gets a little moldy and crusty.
Well, yes, I think you're absolutely right. The ego has been a very functional thing for us, especially as we develop. And we just seem to end up relying on it so much that we forget that we can actually think for ourselves, that we can actually function for ourselves, and that our whole objective isn't division, but to unite. And the ego is the thing that keeps us from doing that. So, yes, we simply just have to place ego where it belongs. We'll always have it.
Sure.
But place it where it belongs, put it on the back burner,
Sure.
call on it once in a while so it doesn't feel lonely. But we really need to be functioning without it, or with as little of it as possible, and start to unite ourselves rather than keep this divide going. If you look at the human race, I have lost count on how many divisions we have.
Well, I would say, and not only that, Henry, and let me say good evening to Christian as well. Good evening, Christian. Thanks for joining us here on All Natural Being. Not only that, it's contrary to science. It's everyone talks about fake news right here in the States. It's contrary. Davey, nice to see you. Thank you for watching. It's contrary to what quantum science tells us, what biology tells us about the connection, what quantum physics tells us about the underlying connection. It's all the field. The collapse of the wave function is the ego, and minus that, we're all of the same field. So technically, you and I aren't really talking about any psycho mumbo jumbo, right? We're not talking about some Pollyanna philosophy. We're talking quantum physics. We are all connected at a level, like the aspens in Colorado, their root systems, or the like. So it's not anything all that weird. It's just now what we call cutting-edge science. We are all connected. We are all a part of the wave. The ego is the collapse of the state vector, or some people call it collapse of the wave function. But ultimately, it's not New Age science. It's just science. It's just the truth. We're all connected, and the separation is a function of the ego very early on, right? Because when you're a little kid, you need to know that the stove is hot, and you need to know that you better not run with scissors, and you need to know, a bunch of different things. But then after a while, you outgrow the need to have an ego constantly badgering you to tell you what you do. And then what happens is that ego becomes a satellite office that still wants to accept all the slings and arrows from the crowd, all the mashugana of the marketplace, and then you get yourself hijacked, would you say?
Absolutely right. You paint just a perfect picture. That's exactly what we do to ourselves. And we forget that the similarities far outweigh any of the effects that ego will have on us in the long run. It's we've just allowed ego to hijack us, and it runs rampant because it has the ball. It caught the ball at the stadium, and so it's just excited that it has its day in the sun. Well, that day in the sun happens to be an entire lifetime for us, and we just have to learn to control it, set it back on the back burner, and realize that this separation, this total anti-human being is just in our way. It really is just causing us more grief.
It is absolutely anti-human. And when we talk about, as you say, it's something that we needed, we put it on the back burner. I remember when I was a little kid, and again, I wish I had updated the video cards, but I don't know, I have 20 or 30 stitches on my right hand, just under my pinky. I almost lost my pinky. And the story quickly behind it was my grandmother said, don't run with that glass milk bottle, right? Don't run with the glass milk bottle. So I thought I knew better. I was a little kid. I don't even think I was in first grade yet. And what did I do? Came time to go. This was back in the day where you took your bottles back to the store. And what did I do? I ran with the bottle. I tripped and fell. The bottle broke. I went to break my fall with my hand and almost lost my finger. So when we talk about the difference between eliminating or illuminating the ego, we needed the ego early on, or we would have drowned, or we would have electrocuted ourselves the first time we stuck a butter knife in the wall outlet. But as we mature, it's a function of maturity. As we grow, as we remember our underlying operating system, which is enlightenment, we outgrow the safety net. We outgrow the rodeo clown. We outgrow the need to be protected early on in life. And then our birthright becomes that enlightenment.
Absolutely right. We have so many reasons to be different and so many reasons to allow ego to just go ahead and run rampant. And the problem is we forget the one reason why we really shouldn't do that. And that's because we are from the same cloth. We are all from the same place, and we just harp on the differences. That's what we focus on. And they're all mostly physical differences. And somewhere down the road, we're going to do the best we can to try to get the message out there. We are not different, and the physical differences don't matter. We are all the same. We're all part of the human race, and we really need to start acting like it rather quickly.
And I'm afraid that if we don't start acting like it, I'm a big fan of believing everything happens for a reason, but if we don't start acting like it, and I want to thank Jack Abercrombie for letting me know.
Yes.
Last time we were on together, he was able to say, Brian, I can hear you, but I just can't hear Henry. So, Jack, I apologize for the inconvenience, but thank you for letting me know that you can hear us both. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for giving me another chance here at All Natural Being and joining us. As I was getting ready to say, Henry, is that I think a couple hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, we could afford to let people of different parts of the world and have a sense of antagonism towards each other. But now we got some heavy-duty weaponry. We've got some heavy-duty ability to exact some really powerful revenge or enact some really powerful evil if we allow the ego to keep running the way it is. It's not like before where you go, I'll hit you with a rock. Well, I'll get a club, smack you with a club. Now we got armies and we got politicians and we got, all these other things that can be brought to bear. But as you say at the end, All that's left over is our all-natural being. All that's left over is our humanity. But the ego, it just seems hell-bent, Henry. I've got to tell you, the ego seems hell-bent on destroying itself. It's like a parasite that literally doesn't care if it destroys its host. And I know it may sound weird to some people, but I'm beginning to believe that's exactly what it is, that an ego that has overstayed its welcome is like a parasite, and it'll do whatever it can to ruin the life of its host.
Yeah, and that's its whole purpose. The parasite doesn't think beyond itself, and so therefore it doesn't realize at the end of it, as it destroys its host, it dies along with it. And that is the direction, that's the purpose of it. And so it's up to us to be a bit smarter than our ego and not allow it to run rampant and to put it in its place when it really requires it. I mean, it's there for us to save our butts is what it does. I mean, it drives that our intentions to try to survive. It's great for that. The problem is that it doesn't know when to shut up, I guess.
Okay.
And it keeps driving us and driving us and driving us to the brink of destruction, even though it's going to pass on along with us. It doesn't care. It just does what it's to do, and that's to survive until it's no longer able to survive, but it costs us. And in the meantime, it's costing us as a civilization. I mean, as a people. We can't even sit on a subway and talk. Although I'm talking about subways and I'm in Cuenca,
right?
But but it just doesn't see its purpose, and we have to at least put it in its place and control it, and realize that we are not really different at all. We are all human, and we belong to the one race, and we need to start acting like it. We really do. We have to start relying on each other.
Sure. Absolutely. All right, Henry, I'll let you go. Thank you so very much. Again, IPMNation.com/live4. And there's some pre-recorded stuff, but pretty soon Henry's going to be going live as well, and he'll be providing content. Brother, thank you so very much for joining us. And thank you for the sound check today with Alberto. I need to thank Alberto from JK Audio, getting us all dialed in. But thank you, Henry, very much for your time. I super appreciate it.
You're very welcome, my brother, and have fun.
Well,
and thank you for putting up with us.
Not at all, brother. I look forward to it. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks so much, Henry.
Bye-bye.
Good night to Rita. All right, I also want to say hello to Charlie Zine. Charlie, every time I get a paddling email or something, I'm always thinking of sending, this is a paddling magazine, or that's a paddling magazine. And it dawned on me the other day, you probably have them all, but I get these things and I send them to you just so that you know that I'm thinking of you. All right, so thank you so very much for joining me for our 260th episode. 260 episodes, Charlie, since Bob Lockwood decided to launch the very first one with me way back when. Thank you all so very much for sticking with me as we worked out some of the audio. We clearly, other than the fact that I can, I can go to the troll alert, we still haven't worked out some of the camera stuff. We spent so much time on the audio, but I think we're getting it. I think we're really close. So let me also say 260, Dana, thank you very much. If there's some content that you'd like to provide, let me know. If you'd like to call in live to the show, let me know. We can pre-record some stuff. We can do a bunch of different things. So if there's things that you'd like to do to have your opinion aired, if there's some things that you'd like to do in terms of telling people what your all-natural being means to you, please go ahead and drop me a line, and we'll go from there. Thank you all so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on Facebook and also IPMNation.com/ANB now. Thank you all so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. Have a fantastic evening. And remember, don't take any crap from anybody.
IPMNation.com.